Hi, positive psychology students. This is going to be a short video on happiness and culture. I am not going to go through all of these slides. I just wanted to make some key points in this video. So make sure you read these slides and also complete any engaged learnings that go with these slides. I also opened up several additional happiness journal exercises that kind of go with the money and with the happiness and culture part of module 6. And I also extended some of the due dates by a couple of days. So make sure you check out Canvas to see when things are due. I also went ahead and set the Module 6 take-home assessment to open sometime this afternoon, and I've given you quite a long time to complete that assessment. So check out that due date on Canvas as well. Okay, so in this chapter, basically what we're going to do is talk about the difference between collectivistic cultures and individualistic cultures. You probably know what the difference is between these two. So this does a pretty good review of that. I'm going to highlight a couple of things that maybe you're not aware of. So we tend to be in the United States, we tend to be an individualistic culture, and we're going to make the comparison here usually with countries in East Asia, which tend to be more collectivistic. So Canada, US, parts of Europe and parts of in England would be more individualistic. And then East Asia, some parts of South America tend to be more collectivistic. Okay. So for us, we really want to see like, how does this notion of individualistic versus collectivistic, how does that change the relationship between well-being and how we define well-being and how we express emotions and where we get our identity from? So does happiness have the same meaning in different cultures? Do the things that make us happy also make other people in other cultures happy? So the first question is the meaning of happiness, is that relative or universal? And I think that we can say, yes, we all have this pursuit of happiness, right? No matter what culture you come from, we want to be happy. All right. You can see research that supports that here. But we do have various understandings of what that means to us. We know that the self-determination theory applies to all cultures. So we all want autonomy, relatedness, and connectedness. But there are culture-specific definitions. So the role of culture we can't deny. So in the first engaged learning activity, what I wanted you to do is complete the following sentence 10 times. I am blank. What would you want people, if they were meeting you for the first time, how would you describe yourself? What would you want them to know about you? Okay. So after you complete that assignment where you just say, I am, and then complete that 10 times, think about it this way. Americans are more likely to complete sentences with attributes like, I am smart. Okay. Or I am an athlete, or I am a daughter. Okay. Things that describe them as an individual. East Asians from more collectivistic cultures are more likely to complete sentences with relational things like, I am a member of a sorority. Okay. Or I am a Japanese citizen. So something that mentions or that describes a relationship, being part of a group. So the main differences we see between these two, and if you count up your statements, chances are you have more individualistic statements. So make sure that you look at that in terms of the engaged learning assignment. I'm not going to go over all this, but you can see that individualistic versus collectivistic cultures do vary in terms of their personal identity, their major goals, how they define self-esteem and what criteria they use for self-esteem. There's so sources for successes and failures, which I'm going to go over in a second here, and their frame of reference, whether they're more independent sense of self or an interdependent sense of self. So you can see here on the left-hand side, these are more individualistic statements, being assertive, pleasure-seeking, direct, collectivistic, being more connected, cooperative, obedient, okay? And You can see here the self in terms of the independent view of the self. This is on the left-hand side, where the self is seen as a separate entity versus in the collectivistic society, there's an interdependent view of the self where your sense of self kind of overlaps with the identities of the individuals who are important in your life. Now, we do emphasize personal identity. We emphasize independence and rights and responsibilities, okay? In the collectivistic cultures, the emphasis is on social responsibility and maintaining social harmony and social identity rather than personal identity, okay? In terms of successes and failures, you can see big differences here. For an individualistic person, I am responsible for my success, right? It's because of me. But my failures, ooh, no, those are because of others, because of things outside of me. Collectivistic, just the opposite. I'm responsible for my failure. Others are responsible for my success. Okay. We see happiness as an inalienable right? Something that everyone should have. It's something that we pursue. Okay. So we say things like, we should be happy. Okay. And that's why we go after activities that are for us, right? Okay. Yeah. We want to please our parents and stuff like that, but not as much as you see in the collectivistic societies. So if you look, for example, 80 to 83% of us report being very, very happy. Canadians, about the same. But look at Japanese, only about 40%. So again, differences there in terms of what we pursue and what we value. Okay. We tend to have more self-enhancing tendencies. Like we tend to engage in more self-enhancing explanations of our behavior. Like, I got an A on that test because I'm smart, studied hard, right? Or if we don't succeed, I failed the test because the questions were ambiguous, right? Not because of me, but because of forces outside of me. All right. We tend to describe ourselves as happy, outgoing, independent. We score higher in self-esteem. And these tendencies are much less pronounced in East Asian cultures. So you can see here, our self-esteem scores tend to be skewed to the right. We tend to be higher in terms of self-esteem, whereas Japanese sample tends to score a little bit towards the middle, right? Lots of differences here in terms of collectivistic here. And in fact, if you look at a collectivistic society, life satisfaction is based on more external and normative expectations rather than what I want as an individual. So unhappiness is believed to arrive on the heels of happiness and vice versa. So why get too happy about something because something negative is just around the corner? So there's this, they really, happiness is less of a life goal, I would say. They're also less expressive and less emotionally expressive. Okay. And they're also taught to focus more on sympathetic relationships. There's this sense of group pride and sensitivity, right? We get our positive emotions from feelings of pride on what we've done. And East Asians, their positive emotions comes from social experiences and pleasing others and coming from things like friendliness and closeness and mutual respect. All right. Another thing that we see a difference in is a self-critical attitude. So if you look at the American adage, if you can't say something positive, don't say anything at all, versus the Japanese adage, if you can't admire your shortcomings, don't expect sympathy from others. So the collectivistics adopt more of a self-critical attitude. That's to promote trust and mutual or respect and support between each other. Chinese rate their own personal qualities less positively than the qualities of others. And Japanese are very reluctant to believe that they are better on average. And Canadians are like, yeah, I believe it all day long. Okay. Another thing that stands out is this notion of false humility or social sensitivity. So we say in America, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? Gets the oil. Like, say what you need to say, get that attention. Japanese or more collectivistic culture is more critical and self-effacing. The nail that stands out is pounded down, right? So, yeah, we want modesty and humility to invite sympathetic treatment for others. That's what the East Asians are saying, right? Rather than self-enhancing or self-effacing sort of attitudes. In terms of the World Happiness Report, we did see that Finland ranked really, really high There are several videos on Finland and why people in Finland are so happy. One class, a section A or section 1, you've seen some of these videos. I posted in an additional one there if you want to check that one out. For those in section 2, um, uh, excuse me, vice versa. Section 2 has seen these videos. Here's an additional one. Section 1, you haven't seen these videos, and I've posted them under the module 6 readings and assessments. So check them out. These are several reasons why Finns say that they are happier. They basically have a very stable, very trustworthy system. So they trust their government. They trust each other. They tend to be very good in terms of freedom of the press, gender equality, children's rights, education. They are a socialist system. And they do have access to parks and free health care. They seem to have a balance and social harmony. 90.4% of Finnish respondents deem their lives to be in balance. So they seem to have, a really good system here. Okay. But fly in the soup and make sure you watch those videos. I apologize for the one video. There is some language in it for those in section 1 who haven't seen that video. But the couple that does this YouTube video to talk about their dissatisfaction with Denmark, it's really, really funny and kind of highlights some of the problems with higher taxes and just the fact too that Finland individuals in particular, they have high levels of satisfaction, but they also have very, very high rates of depression. So it's kind of interesting. They try to downplay their own levels of happiness. Many of them surprised when they learned years ago that Finland was ranking so high. But that may be because, they have a very low expectation for the outcomes in their life. So their focus is really on being content rather than being happy. They have a less is more mentality. So, their high rates of taxes and things like that. There's really not like a push to be like the best that you can possibly be. They also tend to measure low on measures of self-confidence. They believe in being modest and humble. They kind of apologize for their accomplishments. They don't really want to stand out. In fact, they have this whole set of like social laws refer to not being special, not being better than anyone else. Very different from the way we kind of view things here in the United States. They apologize or downplay their accomplishments and things like that. So you'll see there that there's some videos that say, oh yeah, it's great. But other videos are like, well, there's other evidence to suggest that they aren't necessarily, even though they score the highest, they aren't necessarily happier than the rest of us. So are they really happier? Who knows? So they also, another kind of interesting thing in this equation is they also can tend to downplay positive emotions. So this may be why. So if it's impolite to say you're doing better than someone else, right? Remember, that's kind of against their social laws. Then you can see how they kind of downplay happiness as a pursuit. Okay. So this just is an example of that. Social comparison seems to play a significant role in our life satisfaction. If you think about like going on social media and you kind of compare yourself, if everyone else is doing better than you, it's hard to be satisfied with your life conditions, no matter how good they are. So by not displaying, let alone exaggerating their own happiness, maybe this is why the Finns, they might help each other make more realistic comparisons, right? Because no one's trying to say, oh, look at all that I have, or look at all that what I've done. They kind of downplay that. And so it kind of makes everybody feel better. All right. If there are no more questions, or if there are any questions, I'm sorry, feel free to email me with anything that you have. And good luck and stay safe before, during, and after the storm. Don't forget to check Canvas, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.